Hey there, it's been a while since I bought a smart home device, but here it is. I purchased an Eve door and window sensor, built on Thread, with the promise of supporting Matter. If you're like me, you know how big of a deal this is. As someone who wants to make their home smart, regardless of the ecosystem, Matter is a big deal. But right now, it's not out yet. So, what is Matter and what is Thread? Let's dive in.
So let's talk about Matter, formerly known as Project CHIP, which stands for Connected Home over IP. It's a home automation standard that ensures that you can use your smart devices on the voice assistant or assistants of your choice. Doesn't matter if you're using Siri, Alexa, Google, it should just work. At its launch, Matter will work on Ethernet, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Thread. Now, Thread is the new player that caught my interest. Thread is the new communication protocol that makes Matter matter. Typically, when you look at your smart devices in the past, they usually work on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Usually, Bluetooth is used for setting up the devices on your home network. While Wi-Fi offers greater range and quicker response times, these usually go hand in hand with a high energy demand, which makes it unsuitable for battery powered devices. Even some internet routers tend to struggle when you have a high amount of Wi-Fi connected devices, and even some will start running out of IP ranges. In contrast, Bluetooth Low Energy is decoupled from the home network and is highly energy efficient. Bluetooth is less responsive in a larger setup and offers a smaller range due to its energy footprint. This is why a lot of times you will see brands having their own hubs where the devices itself talks to the hub via a energy efficient protocol, and then the hub then communicates to the internet. There's a couple issues with this. Unless you're planning on buying only a single brand, you'll end up with multiple Wi-Fi hubs. For example, I have 4 right now. I have one for my Google Nest front door lock. I have one for my Yale garage lock. I have another one for my MyQ garage. And I also have a hub for my Hue light bulbs. The worst part about this, the hubs themselves do not communicate with each other. And they also provide a single point of failure. If the hub goes down, all the devices on that hub goes down with it. And if your device can't reach that hub, it will become unresponsive. It's not like the device could talk to each other to reach to that hub. Sometimes you will even have the device operable within the brand's application, but it will be completely unresponsive within HomeKit or Google Home. All this leads to customer frustration, where customers are then jumping between devices, different applications, trying to debug why their devices don't actually work. And here is where Matter and Thread actually comes to play. Thread creates a self-healing mesh network with roles and delegations for your smart devices. In short, devices can communicate with each other to ensure that your devices aren't out of range or unresponsive. If a path is broken, it will find a new path. So how does this work? Well, let's dive in. To start out, there's no hub. The accessories themselves are called endpoints. Endpoints are the devices that you want to control. And these endpoints then communicate to what's called a border router. In the case of HomeKit, your border router is either the HomePod Mini or the Gen 2 Apple TV 4K. These border routers are always on devices. I mean, they're plugged in to an electrical outlet and they communicate directly to the internet. If your devices cannot reach the border router, you can extend it by adding more border routers or devices that act as a router and an endpoint. For example, the Smart Home Energy Plug acts as a router and an endpoint. You could control this plug as an endpoint, but it will also communicate with other devices in your home network and pass that communication along to the border router. Now, mesh networks isn't new for home automation. In fact, Z-Wave and Zigbee are competing self-healing mesh networks. Thread, on the other hand, is an open standard for communication on Matter. So everything is great, right? Well, not quite. As brands start making their devices built on Thread, not everyone has embraced Matter. In fact, Remo just released a Thread-enabled light switch But then in an article with Verge, they mentioned that they don't support Matter. In fact, a Matter supported light switch will be coming out as a separate device in the future. Selecting hardware is already difficult for most people. And for those that don't understand Matter and Thread, as it's very new, Wemo just made it very difficult for its consumers. Just because a brand is going to support Thread doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to support Matter. In Wemo's case, it's really just HomeKit over Thread, which to me defeats the whole purpose of moving towards Thread and Matter. Now, Eve, on the other hand, said that their devices are going to support Matter no matter what. They're going to do this by applying a firmware update on these Thread-enabled devices. Now, if you had a Bluetooth-enabled device from Eve, those won't support Thread or Matter. Now, all the new devices that Eve is coming out with will support Thread and Matter. Currently, Eve devices only work on HomeKit. However, they're announcing that they're coming out with an Android app. And they also demoed their Thread-enabled devices working on Google Home. Now, the Android app is very promising because once Matter comes out, Eve will need a way to support their devices on Google Home. At the end of the day, it shouldn't matter which ecosystem you choose. If you buy any devices, it should just work with whatever ecosystem you have. And if you're like me, you may be running multiple ecosystems. So what does this mean to you? Should you buy into Matter and Thread and focus on those devices? There's still not a lot of devices that support Thread. And we still don't know how Matter will play out. My honest recommendation is if you're not in a rush to buy a smart home device, then just wait it out. All these smart home ecosystems, the technology themselves, is going to be changing a lot in the next couple of years. But if you need to buy a device today, buy a device that works with your smart home ecosystem as of now. If it happens to support Thread and Matter, that's just a bonus. As for me, I'm going to be paying more attention to these Thread devices, and I'm going to be investing a lot more on them and to see how it works for me. On my next video, I'm also going to show how I set up my Eve home window and door sensors and my Eve smart home plug. So definitely come back and check out this channel. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Are you buying into Thread? Are you going to start using more Thread products? What home automations do you want to see? That's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you soon.